can you please explain the concepts of ontology and epistemology in layman's language and how to apply them to your field of research?
All right. Well, really bringing out the doozies here on this one. Yeah. So let's break this down. So ontology and epistemology are philosophies. Okay. So if you're having a hard time getting your hands around them, that's why. They are by nature a little ethereal. They're sort of squishy concepts because they are philosophies. And a lot of us come into our doctoral work because we like the concrete. We're here, we're ready to experiment and do that randomized controlled trial and run that statistical analysis. So it can be hard to wrap our heads around these techniques, these terms. So I want to just start by saying that's okay if you're kind of struggling with that. And even those of us who do this and talk about this all the time sometimes still have to sit back and go, wait a minute, which one is that? So let me see if I can break these down into layman terms. Ontology thinks about what is real? What is reality? Okay. So it's thinking about what actually exists, what is a real phenomena versus maybe a perception or a idea, a community derived concept, right? So David said this was a broad question. We don't get much more broad than what is reality, but that's what we think about with ontology. Epistemology is about knowledge. So what is knowledge? How do we know if something is true? How do we know what kinds of evidence is good evidence? How can we ever be certain about anything in the world? So ontology is sort of what is reality, epistemology, what is knowledge. Now, why do they matter for your dissertation? Because in your dissertation, you are essentially creating new knowledge. And so having that epistemological framework or understanding is really important up front, because if you are creating new knowledge, then you need to be able to talk about what knowledge is. So here's how I would approach this. And I'm assuming that you are asking this question because you have to write about this in some capacity. Probably in your chapter 1, that's usually where I see these kinds of sections, maybe in your literature review. But we're often asked to think about an epistemological framework. So pull out your epistemology textbook. If you don't have one, I really like the Oxford Handbook on Epistemology. That's my go-to. It's back here on the shelf somewhere. Pull out your textbook and remind yourself of the different kinds of knowledge that are encapsulated within the framework of epistemology. And then think about what really applies best to your question and what you're hoping to work with. So, for example, I do a lot of work in my research work with in vivo knowledge, which is knowledge that is created through doing the thing. I'm an educator by training. My research work is in K-12 education for the most part. And so I go in, I talk to educators, and I'm trying to pull their learned knowledge that they've gained through their experience, their practitioner knowledge. I pull that out, combine that with whatever else I'm doing, and that practitioner knowledge becomes my frame. So I would say go through one of those handbooks, identify which kind of epistemology, which sort of sub area makes the most sense to you, what jumps out to you. Is it pragmatism, where we're really thinking about application? Is it maybe practitioner knowledge? Is it something more theoretical? And use that as your launching off point.
Thanks, Matthew. Definitely not an easy one to work with. Epistemology, ontology, I always have to look it up every time I have to use it because I forget which one is which and how to apply them. I think really importantly, if you are getting stuck on this, look for research that's been done in your field, particularly dissertations. If they've got an epistemology section or an ontology section, that can also help you get an idea of what might be appropriate in your field.